from which they could take a penny for every chapter of the Bible they read to themselves. For 7 years, since Nate had been born, his father had spent nearly all his time in church. He wasn't the pastor. He was much too shy for that. Instead, he was an artist who specialized in reproducing stained glass windows from the 13th century. And he was in charge of making the stained glass windows for the Washington Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Sometimes he would take Nate and show him his work. And when he did, Nate could look up at the large window in St. John's Chapel and see himself. Yes, see himself. When Nate was 5, his father had used him as the model for the stained glass window of the boy giving Jesus his 5 loaves and 2 fishes. As strict as his parents may have seemed, in other ways, they weren't strict at all. A lot of things that bothered most mothers didn't worry Mrs. Saint one bit. Meals at the house were served at all hours of the day and night, whenever enough of the children gathered to make it worth setting the table. The Saints didn't worry if the children didn't eat their vegetables, or if they had 2 desserts and no main course. Nor did they care if the children didn't keep their rooms tidy, or had holes in their pants, or even if they were late for school. Since Mr. Saint was rather forgetful, Nate's mother took care of most of the practical matters around the house. She was organized, but to most people, in a different way. For example, the Saints' 3-story wood frame house had a large room with hooks and shelves all around the walls. When all the family's laundry had been ironed, it was placed on the shelves or hung on the hooks. When any of the children needed clean clothes, they went to the room and found something to wear that fit them. It was a case of first up, best dressed. The system gave Mrs. Saint a little spare time to write her poetry and play the piano. Because her father, Josiah K. Proctor, was an inventor, Mrs. Saint thought it was important to let the children experiment. In the late 19th century, he had invented machinery that made woolen mills operate more efficiently. He had started a company called Proctor and Schwartz, which later became Proctor Silex. This had made him a wealthy man. Despite being raised in a wealthy home, Mrs. Saint knew that having ideas and trying new things were more important than having lots of money. It was something she never forgot when she had her own children. Indeed, more often than not, Mrs. Saint helped the children carry out their wild schemes. When the children came to her with an idea, instead of no, she would say, "Why not?" One time when Nate was only 4 years old, his big brothers Sam and David decided it would be great to sleep on the roof. Their mother thought it was a wonderful idea, too, and she and the children worked out how to make it happen. Soon the household was buzzing with activity. Mrs. Saint arranged for a carpenter to build a fence around the flat part of the 2nd-story roof over the kitchen. Then she had him build 5 cots. Extra blankets were found in the attic, and within a week, the family had a new sleeping room on the roof. Mrs. Saint and the children all dragged their blankets and pillows out a 3rd-story window and onto the roof. Rachel, who was 9 years older than Nate, would read bedtime stories to the younger children by flashlight. Nate remembered the story of David Livingstone she read from the book 50 Missionary Stories Every Child Should Know. Somehow, outside on a starry night, the whole adventure seemed more real than ever. For years afterwards, Nate spent many summer nights up in the roof bedroom. Of course, Nate's friends loved to spend time at his house. The house was set on an acre of land, and every bit of it was jam-packed with possibilities. Behind the studio where his father did his glasswork was the Saint family's private double-track roller coaster. The huge wooden structure had curves to swoop around and drops to plunge down. Mr. Saint had built it in his spare time with the boys. A few stray nails had gone through the roof of the house and caused leaks, but no one worried too much about that. Nate's parents thought it was more important.